Sometimes you take a shit, and it might even be a splendid shit. A downright enjoyable shit. But then you stand up and you look at the shit and you're confused because what you see does not equate with the experience. And then you try to catalog what you've been eating. But every now and again, you get up and the shit looks just like the experience you had. And it felt just like what you'd been eating. And I just had one such shit. And I feel much better now. I had some sort of poo-poo poisoning. But alas, fear not, my wonderful friends. That is not the only wisdom that I bear as an offering from the porcelain god. Um, oh. You ever just have a shit that made you feel like you were being poisoned from the inside by whatever was in the shit? I just had that shit. I feel like I am free from whatever it was. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever it is, wherever you are. Welcome back to the Lost Begottens Fish Room. One day, hopefully, the Easy Reefer store. The Easy Reefers channel is the number one most suppressed channel on YouTube due to Russia's interference in the 2016 election and me being the first one to call it. Because Google kind of helped them with that. Oops. But anyways. So whoever's watching, thanks for joining and thanks for clicking the like button and yada yada yada. I've been having some deep thoughts. I was performing a seance on Jack Handy, and the ghost of Andy Kaufman, I think, was there as well. And George Carlin was acting as financial advisor. And we came up with some interesting ideas. No, I decided to solve a problem, and it turns out it's not that fucking hard to solve. While I was busy designing a composite beam that also includes storage compartments. Because why not? But anyways, I've allotted 28 days of construction time. And like with a trained crew of, God, 3 to 5 guys, I think we could probably do it in a week. Some of the smaller buildings, at least. And that's like with plumbing, electrical, and a garden, okay? Like, that's a week. That's how well this is progressing, my whole scheme and design. And, you know, being a new home builder, whoever you are, your light disappeared. Being a new home builder who used to be a remodeler is an advantage to begin with. But being a race car type mechanic, former remodeler, new home builder as well, who studied carpentry and building techniques at an archaeological level. And who survived Hurricane Katrina. Well, not survived, well, saw my fucking hometown destroyed. You know, I wasn't there. All my shit was there, but I wasn't there. Six out of 7 guitars. A total shit keyboard. PA system, amps. But the only thing I really miss is a couple sketchbooks and a photo album. If I just had that shit, I'd be happy. But really, man, we keep building shit because life for carpenters has gotten so hard, because the builders and the businessmen are out there taking advantage of the people actually doing the work so badly. I mean, you don't even know if you're getting paid sometimes. Shit, I've been raped on a couple contracts. We're now building houses, have been building houses for 30 years now, at least, that are basically garbage. Like this place I'm living in right now, it's a pile of garbage. But you know, this trailer is actually built better than fucking newer trailers, which is why it's still here. And this trailer is built about as well as a lot of the houses that I'm thinking about when I'm thinking about all the poor work that carpenters have done over the past 30 years. This trailer's damn near 50 years old. It's from like 1974 or some shit. I don't know. It is all old. And looks it. But me, I'm a fan of wood paneling, so yeah, I like the older looking stuff. Not a fan of the peach paint. That's peach paint. And it's basically on cardboard. The interior walls had been replaced. The initial 70s style construction, though, wasn't that bad for what it was. Still absolutely horrible, but that's trailers in general, isn't it? Now we've started building houses more like trailers. People just cutting corners everywhere they fucking can to get more work done during the day, meet deadlines, save on materials. And what you wind up with is houses that are drafty, prone to water damage, termite damage, and that come apart in a strong wind, even though they got technical adherence to code, bolts and straps and shit. There's a lot of good carpentry videos on YouTube, actually. You know, opinions are like assholes and everybody's got one, and there's certainly a lot of guys that have, you know, plenty to say with their massive budgets. But it's a pleasure to get to be the architect with the experience that I have, with the knowledge base that I have. Because what I'm designing is buildings that are specifically meant to cut down on labor so that they can increase materials quality while still reducing overall materials cost. So the overall build quality is fucking phenomenal. The waterproofing is flawless. The airtightness is flawless. Like, these guys could get drunk on the job site and still not fuck it up, basically. You know, I won't be encouraging them to. Except if they're working on holidays, you know. If we're working on a holiday, I'm bringing a fucking case of beer, you know? Like, come on. We're just gonna keep a designated leveler. Have one person, you know, not just to drive the truck, but to also, you know, hold the level on shit, make sure we're not putting shit up sloppy. That'll probably be me, because I don't drink. I'll just, you know, get the guys drunk, and I'll just make sure they're not fucking shit up. Be great. Or even better, whoever's on parole. Yeah, so stick it with the ex-con. You know, give him the burden of being the sober one. And then, you know, after the night's done, job well done, drop him off at his halfway house with a joint. I'm kidding. I'd smoke it with him on the way home. What? Who said that? Seems like somebody's thoughts were projecting in the sound wave somehow. Some sort of a vocal cord system. Oh yeah, never mind. So anyways, you know, Dingo, stop licking your dick. Dingo, stop licking your dick. Yeah, the new top 10 single by Snoop Fatty or something. I don't know. Dingo, you completely fucking threw me off. Oh, lying there sleeping and quiet until you hear me talking. I know. It's kind of creepy that the sound of my voice makes you want to lick your dick. Oh, man. Something I have coughed at. Yeah, something that makes me cough. Now, something I've taken a lot of stabs in the dark at. And, howdy, Mr. Conway. And Mr. Conway has as well over the course of, fucking most of his life since he was about 12 or so. Wondered what the hell kind of carpenter Jesus was. Or in my case now, it's wondering what is meant by the word carpenter in reference to me. Or is it a swapped verse even? I guess I could consider the possibility and have to rule it out that it's a reference to Mary as one half of the amalgamization of I am that I am in mortal form. And for anyone who thinks it is somehow diminishing of God to condescend and to do so by basically self-imposed logical requirement by taking two forms, male and female. First of all, what kind of an asshole do you think God is? And second of all, how little do you respect his power, his being, just simply the singular form, generic, not masculine? How little do you underestimate, or how much do you underestimate the power of God? When you think that he could condescend into only one form. What you don't understand is that in order to condescend from non-reality into reality, that is, in order for the universe to take form, God had to condescend from that level of absolute power into those two forms, and many more, and that is the universe. It is an act, not a thing. A life, not an object. Not a place, not a time, not a space, but an animation. A program of absolute purpose. And that purpose is to bring forth more purpose. Because apparently God is a thing for dolphins. Wait, no, not porpoises. They call him Flipper, Flipper, faster than light. Anyway, I can't say purpose more than a couple times without thinking of the Rocky Horror AP line. You came here with a purpose. Hey, you leave Flipper out of this. Because purpose sounds like purpose. Get it? Okay, I'm done. Anyways. Outdoor wood furnace. Does it duct to your house? That'd be a great idea if it ducted to your house. But that piece of shit isn't gonna do it. You need to like rig up a convection system that also doesn't put the smoke into your house, which wouldn't be hard to do. I don't know how you do it in modern times, but I could do it with fucking Adobe, no problem. How many sides of the house do you want it on? Pump the smoke straight up and out, away from the house. Pump the hot air right into the house. And you'd occasionally get some free roast bat. Which kind of sounds delicious at the moment, but I'm in a weird state of hungry and sick at the same time. Of all the things that I could find appetizing, roast bat, just, Apparently I've smelled one cooking in a similar situation before. Kind of had a flashback. Life can get pretty shitty when you're stationed in Tibet. Speaking of hand-hammered copper, there's a lot more to carpentry than woodworking. For instance, consider the time, 2,000 years ago. What had buildings been built primarily out of before then? What have buildings primarily been built out of since then? stone and wood. You know, they say that the Freemasons are a Gentile organization. Well, would it be the case that the reference to Christ not being a son of David or a Jew, not just be the fact that he was a Galilean or the son of a carpenter in some respect that they shun manual labor, because I don't think the entire house of Judah would shun manual labor. That seems preposterous. But that there was an actual separation between Freemasons or Masons a Masons Guild, perhaps, like a Masons Union. And carpenters. Now, to further dissect this, we can take the logical path of the greater picture of history, not just to infer that this is a time in which business was moving from stonework to carpentry work. Okay. But that the stone builders and the carpenters would have came from different backgrounds. So what kind of a background does a stone builder have? What kind of a background does a carpenter have? Well, a stone builder, what kind of area do they live in? They live in a rocky area. They might live up in mountains. Sounds like the tribe of Judah to me. What's interesting at the time is that a wood builder would have had a precursory trade, and that would be shipbuilding. Like I said, at the time, I remember making cabinets for cabins. When I was really, really young. Like, I wasn't old enough to cut anything by myself. I was sanding, I was hammering, I helped with a two-handed saw, and I helped turn a rotary wheel. But I could only help with the small wheel. I couldn't help with the big one. as far as what led to carpentry, or even the word carpentry. I'd be interested to dissect the word itself. But the whole concept of commercial building worldwide as opposed to regional, temporary, you know, in Europe, where wood was the most abundant resource, there was a lot of wooden buildings. There's a lot of stone buildings also. But it was about the time that Caesar reverted back to using wooden structures in a more complicated way that showed the basically the quickness at which wooden structures could be deployed, and therefore, you know, the more you could complicate it and gain a tactical advantage with wooden structures. So went the economy. At the time, people heard about this, and one can imagine that Gaulish, Gaelic carpentry skills would have been somewhat famous. I mean, really. So the armies of the North, okay? You know, the shit that's in the Bible, the armies of the North, were defeated by Caesar and his mad carpentry skills, basically. Think about that. That's what the people of the time of Christ grew up with, hearing that story. He subdued the barbarians who were causing a rebellion in France, in Gaul. Before that, the Franks were basically the Romans. That's why the Holy Roman Empire started in France. But I don't know why that's something people don't connect. It's right there in the history books. Anyways, what do they speak? They spoke French. Well, they spoke a mixture of Gaelic and Latin. And the Lombardis came later. And that's where you get Italian. Anyway, but it's all very ancient Gaelic in origin. Latin itself is like just a mirror language. Spoken by what I refer to as the Old High Germans, not the Latins or not any group of people that call themselves the Latins. I know the remnants of the exact people are there in the Latin areas, but they say that those are the people who predated the Latins, which means they've transposed the Latins onto somebody else, which may be why they don't realize that the Romans were French. Anyways. I don't know where the fuck I was going before I got onto that tangent. Oh, carpentry. So there had been tree forts for thousands of years. There had been stone castles for thousands of years. Big mud fucking wall forts with stone on top. Chopped down trees with mud and stone piled over them. Thousands of years. And then one day some asshole says, we're just going to chop down all the little shitty trees and make a bunch of sharp sticks. Put them in the ground facing away from us. But we don't count on people being stupid. So we're going to leave little gaps for them to go between. And we're just going to train all of our fucking firepower and shit right on the little gaps. And then, a couple rows in, we're going to have some spikes facing the other way. And they're not going to realize it until they get right in front of those spikes. And then we're just going to push them all into them. And whoever survives will just fucking, clean up. And for thousands of years, massive fucking armies had fought with cavalry and fucking elephants, giant armies, thousands and thousands of soldiers, massive lines of men. And it's hard to get stone to burn. But it's also hard to get freshly chopped wood to burn. And it's hard to build one little wall of stone. But it's easy to build a shit ton of walls of wooden spikes. And what are they going to do? Wait to attack? The longer they wait to attack, the more you fucking dig in. I see. this was a situation where Caesar had a corrupted noble's house surrounded. But that corrupted noble had called for reinforcements. Scythians. And locally recruited barbarian mercenaries. Or just mercenaries. It wasn't any rallying of the other Gaulish kings or anything like that. That's bullshit. Well, first there was a blockade line built, partially dug, and then basically a wooden road with 6 forts, just built in a hurry, and fucking spikes all the way around. Come and get us if you want to, but you got to try to get us while you're dealing with our spikes. Because before you build anything else, you got to put the spikes up. And usually it starts with a row of spikes, and then you dig a trench behind them, stack the mud behind that, and then put 2 more fucking rows of spikes in that. So it's a nice 3D effect. And then, because the river wasn't fucking held, you know, like they had the Rhine, you know, that we could be surrounded from all sides, and we eventually were. We built another line on the other side of the wooden road and all the forts. So there was a stone castle with a wooden fort around it, facing inwards, and facing outwards, because there were basically like horse-mounted raids, throwing fire, shooting arrows. They're specifically made throwing torches. The whole shooting fire arrows thing, that's not really something that you saw a lot. Oh, but you're talking about a really humid fucking place. You're talking about right south of where Maximo lives. The steppes of Bavaria. Very humid, fresh cut wood, all debarked. We had very good tools. We had a bandsaw, a mobile bandsaw. Do you think that I could live that long and have that many people working for me and not have created a bandsaw? Oh, perish the thought. I was working on designs for a buggy just to taunt them. Well, we ran out of time for that. It would have been hilarious, though. Had a little fucking cart running around that wall just like the fucking Great Wall of China. Oh, it would have been great. But yeah, it's pretty easy to keep a fucking wooden wall from burning. All you gotta do is keep it wet, man. And if it's humid, that's easy. You know, it's not like we had a fucking shortage of manpower. That's the thing, like, the reason why they weren't able to mount an offensive from outside is because there was no bullshit about the fucking, the locals rising. We were the locals. The locals were fucking bringing us food. People were coming to join us all the damn time. Oh, you're trying to get rid of these assholes? Yeah, let us help. And there's a lot of different oils that don't burn. We had sponge rollers. There was a kind of tar-like substance. It's not like tar like they use nowadays. Let's see. It was, I think it was based on some kind of food product. It was really, really dark brown. It was, I think, something mixed with coconut oil, maybe? I don't know. But it formed like a fucking, like almost like a chocolate shell. And it wasn't waterproof worth a shit, but it was fireproof. So it would be like a regular reapplication type thing. I like it when I remember little things like that, because that's how I actually remember like the bigger fucking stories. By like a little detail like that. I remember this substance. Wait, what the fuck was that? Where did we get that from? But anyways. So what made Caesar such a threat seems to line up with my memories from what might be the first of the two or the middle of the three lifetimes, but the life before, quote unquote, Christ, or life before Christ, yeah. The second out of 4 lives, I guess, total in that time period. The 4 horsemen of the memory lapse. What? But then a lot of the Caesar history also seems to be not just to hide the connection between the Acadians and Magdalena and Mary and all that, but also to hide Claudius, Octavian, Augustus, Nero. Also known as Ivan the Long-Lived. Your light disappeared. So anyway, Dingo, stop being a putz. Cut it out. Cut it out. Man, I need more coffee. Ah. here to make the curd? No, you need your cup to make the curd, dumbass. I have more to talk about. Sorry, it's just taking so damn long. Curry is supposed to be quicker, but I sure fucked that up. I figured out how to fix the United States tax code some more. What I had before was basically a good idea on where to start, but seems I was having a bit of a barrels of wine moment, and I forgot something that I used to know very well. And that is Alright. Dingo. Dingo. Fucking really? Come on. Stop. 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 Why are you so terrified of me? You're silly, alright? But it's sleepy time. Sit there and fucking scratch yourself in the front of the camera. You're not a very good co-host, Dingo. You know that? Not a very good co-host at all. Lay down. Sleepy time. Go on. Hi. Dingo! Anyways. Now that Mr. Helpful's done, check the chats. No. Now this is a good fucking cup of coffee. I put a little too much sugar. It's okay. It's like lots of sugar, lots of flavor situation. So that's fine. It just tastes like fucking coffee flavored ice cream. Only molten. Yeah. Anyway. So I am getting really excited about my parts catalog. I don't know if that sounds dirty or not. It wasn't intended to. Like, I think I've got it down to like under 150. Like, I'm adding them all up now, and I still think I'm within that estimate there. But under 150 actual parts that can make any fucking building I want. And that covers 90% of everything that needs to be done to that building. Like, instead of a program that guy was using just then, I think it's called Sketch It. Dingo! Fuck off. Yeah, I hate it when you make me pull rank, because then you look all guilty. You look all sad, and I feel all guilty. Yeah. Anyway. Fucking, the program Sketch It, that's a great fucking program if you're putting together something 2x4 by 2x4, you know? But I want it to where I can put a house together more like they do on The Sims. You know? Just wall section by wall section. And what I decided was, basically, that a 4-foot wall section is useless. And that made everything a whole lot quicker and easier. Because when it all comes down to it, the only purpose a 4-foot wall section really serves in the greater scheme of things is vanity. That is too small for anyone to fit in, ever. It's too small to sit in, too small to work in, too small to shit in. Never cram anybody in that small of a space. And if you just avoid doing that, you know, long lines become 3D objects quicker than short lines. You know what I mean? And I'm going to have fun being innovative with custom siding, because I don't like any of the options that are out there, but I've been kind of inspired to combine a few different techniques. I think I'm just going to mold my own siding, and I'm going to combine it with wood. Hey, like them apples. That way it'll have the extra durability, quality, fit and finish of wood. And should be actually easier to assemble than standard siding. And I'm going to combine it all in the actual build process of the siding itself. So I'll have basically like modular one-piece veneer sections. How badass is that? And like not even cheap too. Like not even a cheap way of doing it. Like I've looked at a lot of different ways of doing it. This is just a much better way of doing it. And it's cheap. Win-win. And like I said, with the whole build process, allowing for higher quality materials by cutting down the number of cuts, basically. You know, 8-foot sections instead of 4, for instance. And by having it all done on an assembly line, and with a slew of different machinery that I've invented to make that process go a lot quicker. What I can do on the external walls is basically have 2 walls. And I'm going to offer probably the most advanced sound deadening system there is. I challenge anyone to come up with a more effective combination of heat and sound insulation. Well, that's cheaper and quicker to build. Or as cheap and as quick to build. Because I think I fucking nailed it. Man. I'm not even going to describe part of this shit, but it's fucking genius. Let's just say it's so good at stopping waves, it could probably stop an explosion if you beefed it up a little bit. And yes, I have designs for that too. It's on a different page. Anyways, oh, where's the coffee? Coffee. Oh, good coffee. Oh. So, when they asked Jesus in the Bible about whether or not they should pay taxes to Rome, and he said, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. I think people get caught up too much in interpreting what can easily be judged with your hearts. But like so many things, failed to decode the mystery that was given in the answer so that it would last throughout history and give reference to the reality of the time, which was that they were trying to accuse me, Christ, excuse me, let me speak in third person so I don't sound crazy. Oh, I forgot. They were trying to accuse Jesus of being essentially a Roman spy. Because that was a bad thing. Yeah. Kind of like, don't trust him, he works for the CIA. But you see, Octavian was on the throne still. Yeah. The boy who was the god of war that I taught everything he knows. But I had no love for Octavian at the time. Augustus, the 8th month. Octavian. Hello. Good night. Ding, 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 ding. Mm. Good. Anyways. I'm sorry, the position's already been filled. So, where was I? Render unto Caesar's. What is Caesar's? What you should take from that is the politicness of it, of the answer given. It's to say, I'm not gonna say that I like paying taxes to Rome. But I'm not going to say that you shouldn't pay taxes to Rome. And I'm not going to be held in contempt or seen as a rebel, because that's what they were trying to entrap me as being. Sort of a no-win situation. Either he supports Rome, or we're going to turn him into Rome. All too familiar. Rome had basically become the newest conquest of the Parthenons. And I mean, it's like if Trump became emperor. Well, render unto Trump what is Trump's. Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. The Gauls had a barter system. You know, banking was really of the Jews at the time. And it was mostly ex-slaves, people who had need of lending, that gave value to currency. And they would exchange usury notes for you know, like the work that needed to be done, or food and things like that. Basically swapping debt. And that's how currency actually got started. Was laborers, people trying to start their own kind of service business, basically artisans. Swapping debt. And there were different types of exchanges where people would offer those types of things for, you know, like essentially pawn shops that kind of made made money as a concept go public. You would give them a bunch of stuff, and you know, instead of it being like a bank, where they would give you an allowance, they would give you the exchanges of other people's debts that you could go and then take and cash in at that bank, at that Moneymakers Guild, basically, is kind of what it was called. Bankers Guild, I guess you could say. Lenders Guild. Lenders Guild. There you go, Lenders Guild. And they would either try to sell you on some sort of thing to try to basically take what you had from you. And try to get you to bring back more of it. Or if you had enough to reach the that guild's minimum for payout, you might get a sliver of gold. And in fact, I always thought the reason why silver was called silver is because it sounded like sliver, and they used silver so they would stop getting so many complaints about little slivers of gold. Because, you know, they were just doing it to be smartasses to begin with. Anyway. So Caesar wanted in on all this shit. You know, there was tariffing, and there was, you know, land sale tax. There was land tax. Okay. But there was never any sort of income tax until fucking Nero. Until the deading situation. People still bartered, and some people didn't use money at all. And, you know, there were different ways of branding those people as heretics and everything else. And the early Christians, that was a big reason for their persecution. And they basically, Nero said the whole idea of giving to the poor and the needy was just a plot to avoid taxes. But then, you know, governments used to be a whole different animal than what they are today. It used to be a family owned a big swath of land, and they took care of it, and they took care of the people on it. And those people defended that land. Not just from humans that weren't from there, but from the humans that were from there. They defended it from themselves. They learned from experience. They didn't bullshit each other about cause and effect. But now, that's all we do. We just bullshit each other about cause and effect. Republicans and even Democrats seem to bullshit themselves about cause and effect when it comes to taxes. You see, back then, you know, you had the whole family and the village were one, you know. Now you got families and no village. Well, you got federalism. What federalism is supposed to be is when the whole country is the village. And that's why we're supposed to have taxes. And instead of artisans, craftsmen making a business where they live, we have business empires. And we have corporate overlords. And people who do basically nothing but play around with money. Now, cause and effect. Reagan lowers, basically permanently, the high income tax rate. Clinton raised it. Bush put it even lower. Obama put it back to where Reagan lowered it to. and the Republicans acted like it was the end of the world. But everybody forgets how high it was before Reagan. High. Make Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, whatever her name is, blush. That's how high it was. 78, 84, 93 sometimes percent. For people who made more than $10 million a year. Now that sounds horrible. That sounds scary. That sounds like crazy now that we're at 37%. I agree. It sounds fucking crazy. It sounds drastic, but the fact is, cause and effect, it did work. And I've already explained why it worked. And that is because America is a system whose success depends on a lack of corruption. Not on low taxes. Okay? The lack of corruption, the spirit of patriotism that we had back in the 50s. Oh, we were so lucky we had it because there were so many other forces tearing this country apart. But there are some things about back then that we definitely would be wise to get back to. And one of them is just a spirit of knowing who the hell we are as a country. And when our government functions properly, we have the best schools, had the best roads, the best public transportation systems in the world. And it is only by fighting corruption that we get that back, not by lowering taxes. That's the definition of counterintuitive. When you lower taxes, you reduce the quality of infrastructure and the ability to do business. Boom. Furthermore, when you reduce taxes in order to incentivize growth, the demand does not increase. Therefore, supply does not increase. Therefore, job creation does not increase. When you reduce taxes, financial products, financial profits increase. And what happens is inflation. And the gap between the rich and the poor gets wider and wider. And the fact of the matter is, overall, because of the inflation that their quest for greed has caused, overall, they don't have much more, while the rest of us have considerably less. And what I'm saying is, with an increased tax rate, you get infrastructure, you get government based economic activity that stimulates private economic activity. You get growth from the ground up. And then you have a sustainable class of people who are living basically nearly at the level of these greedy fucks today. Oh, nearly. And the really rich people, they still get to be even richer than they are now, just not as relatively, grotesquely richer than everybody else. So, unless this is some sort of sick game they're playing with egotism, where they just want to see how much poorer we can all get so that they can be the same kind of mediocre millionaires, it would do us all a lot of good for them to cut this stupid shit out and put the tax rate, oh, I'd say about at least 49%, 42% for a fucking benefit corp. I mean, we need to do the math. Let's consider what fucking OSC said. 70%? Did she really say that? Shit. 70%. Do the math on that. Does that fucking secure Social Security and welfare? Does that pay indigent people's bills to keep them the fuck off the streets stealing shit? Does that pay for mental health? Does that pay for housing for the homeless? Because you know what? You put carpenters to work. You put mental health care people to work. You get people jobs. You get people commuting. Put mechanics to work. Put car salespeople to work. They're all making money, putting other people to work. Guess what? If you own fucking Walmart or Target or fucking Herman and Gertrude's corner store emporium or whatever, I don't know. Whatever store you own, whatever business you have, it's gonna be doing better. And when it all comes down to it, you know why Bill Gates doesn't have $1 trillion? Because he doesn't want $1 trillion. You understand that? Bill Gates got so much fucking money, he was like, this is driving me crazy. I don't even know what to do with all this shit. It's just piling up. Literally, it was stressing him out. I was following his fucking when I was in school, I was following Microsoft on Yahoo stocks, I think. And Bill Gates was donating millions and millions of dollars in stock in Microsoft. Uh-huh. Not just money. He was donating millions and millions of dollars in stock to different fucking charities and shit. Just wow. People fucking go all batshit about the Amazon guy and Zuckerberg. They never fucking did anything in their life. Bezos bought somebody else's book fucking company and Zuckerberg just found 2 words to redescribe AOL. Meanwhile, fucking Bill Gates basically single-handedly deployed infrastructure. Like, it was Microsoft and Cisco, man. Microsoft and Cisco built it all. Everything everybody else did was just fancy little upgrades. Oh, don't forget IBM. Oh, yeah, IBM is big shit. You know how fucking big IBM is? Who owns IBM? Nobody fucking knows who owns IBM. That's big shit. I want a piece of that pie. But anyways, so the basic economic theory is simple. When you give away money to corporations, they don't work harder because it does not create demand. When you spend money on infrastructure, it facilitates business and it creates demand. So one thing doesn't make any sense from any perspective, and one thing makes all kinds of sense from a lot of perspectives. That's why I think that the people who support small government are Republican Confederates, and always have been. Like Oliver Stone or Roger North. What? You know, it's Ted Cruz reading fucking Green Eggs and Ham to make the government shut down. Fuck. These people are obstructionists. They are Confederates. They are spies. They're traitors. Plain and simple. And, you know, if I were running for office, I would ask, if I was a Democrat, if I was a Democratic candidate, I would say, Republicans, please stop voting for people who don't believe in government. If you don't believe in government, stay home and don't try to govern. You'll run a business into the ground. Isn't that what most of those people do? I mean, let's face it. Most of the people who don't believe in government can't run a business, can they? They always wind up in debt to strange entities. Bingo. It's enough. So Russia has blocked the IMSA broadcasts and enabled this swagger racing to apparently hijack all their onboard feeds and consolidate them. Different racing teams all run their own different streams. Not able to find any of those. IMSA runs their own stream. Not able to find that. Meanwhile, this guy is running all the onboards and running the stream up in the corner. So, YouTube just makes it so easy for them to fuck Americans over. Or Europeans, or, you know, just the West over in general. And it's this same anti-American pattern being shown with different outward politics. That's clearly crying of evidence that Google is inundated with Russian traitors. Just of a different sort. Mostly of the sort that's made to incentivize or incite the Confederates. And to incite the so-called right into supporting the actions of the Confederates. Fuck a duck. So, still just you, Conway? Yep. Fucking starving.
A powerful conversation.
I'm kind of like afraid to eat. I thought I could stomach that pizza. And then I couldn't even go for the pepperoni. I went with the kids' cheese pizza. And then after I put it in the microwave, I'm like, I'm not sure if I even want this. I tell you what, every time I see a modular home manufacturer, I see that they're just doing it wrong. Wasting a lot of space, taking way too much time. Oh, just way too much time. I mean, the guys are basically standing around doing nothing. There's no rhythm, there's just nothing going on there. There's no assembly line, no linearity. They're basically just building a house and then taking it apart. I could be building 5 houses at once in that building. Maybe if I sit here and smell it. Smells pretty fucking good. Stuffed crust. Greasy. Greasy cheese. I need another napkin. Fucking name brand brawny paper towel just to soak up all the grease. There we go. shelf in the drawer, in the door, excuse me, for condiments. Yet I have to like take ketchup and mustard and all kinds of shit out of the fucking way on the main shelf to get to a drink. YouTube is a surprisingly good resource. Actually, not really surprisingly, but you wouldn't think of just how good, really, for carpentry. Especially because I'm trying to find out, like, the best way to build houses in every condition, you know? Usually using primarily wooden modular pieces. You can see guys on here from Russia to Sweden to South America, fucking Malaysia, all over North America. Dutch, German, degreased cheese pizza was definitely the way to go. All right. Here's my peace offering, YouTube. Stop acting like a bunch of traitors and censoring my channel and remonetize it. And here's my offer of good faith. Have somebody, make it that girl that does the science videos. Give them a mass spectral analyzer. And make a channel called What the Fuck Is That? WTF is that? And start with the fucking grease that forms on top of pizza when you microwave it. And see, the reason why this is a good peace offering, the reason why this is a big favor for me to tell you, is not only because it's a great idea for a channel that would make a lot of money, is because, but also because it's a great opportunity for an inadvertent intelligence gathering operation. Mostly, corporate. Hell, Google, you might even be able to blackmail people into having the little girl lie about shit when people don't want their secrets to get out. Oh. Coming up next, we analyze that shit that lands on your face when your cat shakes its head right by you. Stay tuned to What the Fuck Is That? You got any ideas for a What the Fuck Is That episode, Conway? I don't think the troll was impressed. Oh. What I was implying as far as the Coca-Cola, I mean the corporate, the corporate espionage shit goes, though, like, they still don't know what the hell they put in Coke. Next on What the Fuck Is That? You ever wonder what it is about Coca-Cola that makes you want another fucking Coca-Cola? We'll find out this and more on What the Fuck Is That? Of course, they'll be saying, what WTF is that? WTF is that? Or what the F is that? How do they build in Switzerland? Yeah. Oh, so if you want to just get drunk and laugh at something really random, type in water camper and watch the German language infomercials. It's one of them jolly German, happy sounding guys, you know, and the occasional English language and the occasional German word that you kind of understand, and then the rest is just hilarious. It's and of course, I was sitting here cracking my wife up, narrating it like, and this is where we stuff the bodies of the Jews, and yeah, because you know all Germans are Nazis. And like right as I was making that joke, they went to like the gas supply. Oh, I couldn't take it. Oh. I think maybe somebody in the editing department might have been having a little fun with the innuendo to have the sequence that they had to accompany my AP line so well. Maybe you'll see what I'm talking about. Maybe you won't. Just, you know, see how well it goes for you making jokes about them, like using that water camper to commit genocide. You know, light humor. Keeping it classy all the way to Christmas. Or Hanukkah. Oh, boy, that pizza was definitely the right call. I feel better. For now. Until my IBS starts to go, you were saying? How to fill and back pour. Oh, well, that's that home renovation DIY. That guy's not too fucking bright. He's like a videographer who's basically just trying to replicate shit that other people taught him. And that makes two videos. I wish I could remember the last video that I saw recommended. That no, that's not how you do things. You don't pour concrete into a hole underneath the fucking foundation. That's not how you fix a foundation. You see, I know how to fix a foundation because I am from Louisiana, the home of the cable lock people. And that is a patented process that fucking comes from Louisiana. Because we have the crackiest foundations there are. And it's really not that fucking complicated. But there's other proper ways of doing it that aren't as clever. Cable log is just downright fucking clever. Anyway. Yeah. You are seriously asking for trouble if you wind up finding a hole under your foundation and you go and pour concrete or anything else into that hole. That hole is a part of nature, and it will eventually win. And by adding a bunch of fucking weight to the top of it, you might make that hole one day in the distant future or near future become a much bigger hole. And it just might take that whole fucking corner or the whole house itself with it when it goes. So what you do is you elevate the sunken part with steel. And maybe this can be done all underneath the house. Maybe this can be done, maybe you need an outcropping. You can always cover that with a nice fucking porch or something. Plant some hedges, whatever. But you need to get that structure supported elsewhere. You need to anchor that bitch down from the other way and put steel underneath it. Or you need to make a little bridge of sorts to the nearest spot of good land. Set a little brick on that, put a little steel beam on there. Have that shit drilled into the bottom of the foundation in a bunch of places so it don't stress any one connection out. And of course, if the foundation is already broken, what they do is they drill a bunch of holes through it and kind of sew a metal cable through it, and then use that to pull up on it and sew it together, kind of like stitches. It's fucking brilliant. It's almost like it was invented by an old racing guy. Anyway, so how to, what was it? Save Social Security. raise the taxes, right? No, it's not that fucking simple, is it? Because there's a whole lot of people who don't want to raise the taxes. And prepare for them to give you a lot of shit if you go and say you want to raise the taxes to 49%. I think 49% should do it. 49% don't sound too scary. You know? It's like the government shouldn't have a controlling interest in the company of you, you know? No matter how successful you are, 49% should be the max, right? And there should be responsible citizen type deductions for corporate ownership that's beneficial to the country, right? Different levels, different incentives, that kind of thing. But capital gains over a certain amount should definitely be taxed at a much higher rate than 37%. But how do you get it done? That's the thing. How the fuck do you get it done? Both rhetorically, what's the plan? What's the playbook on the argument? And what's the strategy for negotiation? What do you give? What, you know, because you got to get some Republicans over on this, right? Plain and simple. How in the hell, and I'm speaking rhetorically because I already have the answer, how in the hell could you possibly get Republicans to vote for 49% capital gains over $1 million a year and 70% over $10 million a year? Or let's just lower the limit and lower the amount. Let's just do it 49%. Yeah, 49%. Over $2 million a year. How about that? How do you get a Republican to even support that, though? Simple. Do away with the estate tax if they'll support that increased capital gains tax. The reason why that'll work, it's not an equal bargaining chip, but it comes with a rhetorical win, because then Democrats get to use the whole death tax thing on the Republicans, saying they'd rather give money away to the rich than repeal the death tax. We've got crumbling infrastructure, and they want to watch our infrastructure crumble because they support the death tax. Oh. Watch them squirm. He won't know what the fuck to say. Shit, that's my line. All you gotta do is balance out the numbers. Because eventually, the estate tax is gonna be a more and more marginal thing. But in order to keep the economy going long term, we need to raise the fucking tax rates. Period. So that's how you do it. So I will eliminate the federal tax on inheritance. By the way, which gives the states free reign to tax that a little more if they want to, which I think would be a good thing. If they want to have anything, they could have like a federal to state education funding surcharge or something like that, you know. But anyway, the Republicans could be quite proud of getting that done, of getting rid of the death tax. Even if it raised the corporate tax rate. And 49%, like I said, it's a rhetorically sound position, because again, it's been much higher than that. And you can say, well, I feel like the government shouldn't have, and you know, you start with the line of it's been at 70%, 90%, 85%, this and that and the other, well above 49%. But I personally think, and I think anybody who hears this would agree with it, that the government shouldn't have a controlling interest in any one citizen's personal business. And 51% is generally the line where someone controls a company. So I don't think the government has a right to any more than 49%. I think that's just logical. I think that's honorable. And I think that history shows that it works. And math shows that we need it. Anyway. So what's up, Mr. Conway? Coffee table with a built-in 4K projector. Yeah, that's nice. That's something I designed in like 1999. Oh, Oh yeah, I think I still have that sketchbook. It's my really old sketchbook that I had in my car with me. The one sketchbook that I have had the longest, basically. Back when I was trying to sort of get a real computer into a cybernetic furniture business before anybody else had done anything of the kind. And now, like, man, when you see all these little tables and shit integrated with computers and stuff, man, I got all that in that sketchbook from fucking 20 years ago. But see, I wasn't just designing like a table that a TV came out of. It was a table that a TV came out of with a motherboard and power supply and disk drives and audio and everything all built into it. That was back in the day when people actually had to use a disk drive to access movies and shit, you know. Now it's like, I don't know about most people, but my DVDs stay on the shelf for the most part. And I watch movies on Netflix and Hulu for the most part. Because half the time when I think of watching a movie that I have on the shelf, it's sitting there on the fucking internet waiting for me. How to start your own construction company. Conway, you awake? Oh, he was typing shit. Boy. Well, go ahead and get some sleep, my friend. I should probably get some rest my damn self. Thanks for hanging out. Hope you enjoyed the lecture. It seemed like some shit that needed to be said. And I'm still excited about the fucking volume knob in the Honda Pilots and Passports. Because they went with the little touch thing, and I understand why they did it, but just know, volume knob, volume knob, volume knob. Make it a volume knob. It's better. And they did. So, yay. The new Honda Passport and Pilot officially have everything. Anyways. So thanks for being the persistent liker on the suppressed broadcast here. And I'll let you know more about when we're going to get started on stuff. As soon as I know more about when we're going to get started.